of a reaction to these refugees and the potential for their return to where they came from if we could ever solve the dilemma of the Middle East, particularly Syria.
Listen, this is how things, I'm now a mature woman. I'll be 47 next month. And the biggest lesson I've learned is nobody's going to solve your problems for you. We are not going to solve Syria's problems. Syrians will have to solve Syrian problems. Egyptians will have to solve Egyptian problems, and so on and so forth. I spoke of Israel as an example in the approach of how to do it, And if those countries want to learn from Israel, well, Israel is their neighbor. In terms of what's going on in Europe and the mass immigration from many of these countries, what we're seeing in Europe is there was this incredibly unhealthy nationalism of the late 19th century, early 20th century that people in this audience know more than I do because your relatives, some of you, your relatives were in gas chambers. So it unfolded that way in the 20th century. There was this never again moment. Some people in Europe and in the United States responded to that by going relative. And then relativism, moral relativism to an extreme. So now there's not only a rejection of toxic nationalism and unhealthy fanaticism in Europe, but the pendulum has swung all the other way for the Europeans. They're rejecting national identity altogether, the current leaders. And by doing so, they're leaving a vacuum to be filled by people who are still convinced that that old toxic nationalism should fill that place. At the same time, Europe has imported, and because of globalization, the idea of Sharia and jihad and Islamism has come to Europe. Now there is this void where the establishment leaders, political leaders in Europe, have left open that is being filled by these two negative forces. And the reason why I decided that one of the points that I wanted to talk to you about was a healthy national identity, is that it is key, it is urgent for these tiny countries in Europe to figure out that healthy national. What is it about Germany, about Scandinavia, about Britain, what is it about these nation states that is worthy of holding on to, that is not represented by Marine Le Pen or by any of these nationalist groups? They have to answer that question for themselves. I don't think America can fix Europe. I don't think America can fix the Middle East. In fact, in many ways, I worry about whether America can fix America.
Right.
Okay, so these two gentlemen have been standing up together, so the only way I can fix this is you ask a question, and then you ask the other question, and she can pick which one she wants.
First of all, I am very proud. I'm Ethiopian, and you are Somalian. You know, in the history, we are Habash. You know, we divide us, Menelik that time, you know, he divided the Somalian to Italian, the Eritrean to Italian, the other part. You know that we are one family. And I'm very, very proud that you are here.
Thank you.
What are you thinking now about today, about Ethiopia? What kind you have impression when you was living in Ethiopia? Mm-hmm. And what do you think about Ethiopian Jewish? How they welcome you in Ethiopia? And I, with my two children, I welcome you, my sister, and I love you. And I'm very proud as African.
Very good, okay.
You know, I always think, you know, Ethiopian, Somalian, Eritrean, Sudan, if they are together, they can make one economy, they can work for each other. Yeah. But, you know, we are killing each other, you know, for many years, you know what I'm saying? After died, the Ethiopian Jewish King Haile Selassie, everything died. So I'm very proud, and I welcome you. And thank you for the good job you're doing in this world. As African, I'm very, very proud, my sister. I love you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And I love you too. And I will tell everybody who confronts me and says you have no support from Somalis or Ethiopians or Africans, I will tell them what you just said. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. What can Ethiopia learn? What can Somalia learn from? You know, Somalis think the only thing that Italians left us is pasta. Which is, I mean, it's great pasta. But I think there are other things that we could have learned about what made Italy what it is or what it was. Britain was a former colonizer of many parts of Africa. I know that a lot of the food, British food, is not that great. But the British left institutions. They left the idea of a parliament, the idea of individual liberty. You don't have to throw everything out. And again, I think for Ethiopia especially, there is no country in Africa that I think could form a partnership with Israel more than Ethiopia. There's a shared history, there's a shared identity, there are shared values, and there's so much that Ethiopia could learn from, and I hope is prepared to learn from Israel, and the other way around. And I'll take the last question. I'm not going to talk about my foundation. I might have to leave. There was someone else who got the mic.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Since September 11th, during the George W. Bush administration, there was not a single major terrorist attack on American soil while the war of terror was being procured by the Bush administration. Then we got Barack Obama, and since Obama became president, there has been at least one major terrorist incident on American soil every year for the duration of his presidency. Neither he nor his former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton would even utter the word Islamic terrorism jihad. Now, of course, we're faced with the American election, and barely 10 days away, where Hillary Clinton is the major contender. What do you see as the consequences of Hillary Clinton being elected president, given the fact that she is an advocate of open borders, unlimited refugees, refuses to confront ISIS head-on, refuses to place restrictions on...
Question, not a statement. Question, not a statement.
What is your opinion of the consequences of a Clinton administration going forward?
You know, one of the things you'll notice is in the last 6 months, I think the last time I published something was on the Orlando Terrorism Act, and I have stayed out of the elections because my message to you, America, the US, Europe, everywhere else is radical Islam and radical Islamists don't give two hoots about Trump, about Hillary Clinton, about Bush, about Obama. They don't care. They have a world view. And they want to spread, promote, and impose their world view. As soon as it becomes clear to our leaders that that's their agenda, I think it doesn't matter how imperfect they are, how imperfect our leaders are. But what I seek to promote is for them to realize that that agenda is ongoing. And the only way to do it, honestly, is grassroots. We need to talk to our leaders about what is going on, that we are educated. We're not fooled by this president or that president saying, you know, Islam has nothing to do with jihad. Jihad is in the DNA of Islam. Sharia is in the DNA of Islam. I don't need President Obama or Vice President Biden to tell me that. I know it. But I feel that I fail if I don't communicate that to them. So maybe it's not that our leaders are failing us. Maybe it's that we just keep choosing and electing leaders whose worldview is stick your head in the sand and things will be okay.
Let us say goodbye to Ayaan Hirsi Ali. She's been an inspiration to all of us. She's a heroine. She gives hope to the Western world. She's the most amazing person. Okay, so just before we
You can
go
talk
forward,
to, I'm pretty sure they're going to make it public.
I need to just
So talk to,
advise you of two things.
Charles.
The campus
Yeah, Charles,
problem.
talk to.
Got it.
My organization, Americans for Peace and Tolerance, has a new film coming out. November 30th is the world premiere in New York, co-sponsored by Camera. It's called Hate Spaces. It's about the war against the Jewish kids on campus. It's about Students for Justice in Palestine and BDS, who they are, how they get their money, how they operate. So we'll have also a premiere in Boston, which we're arranging probably in mid-December. Secondly, every one of you has got this pamphlet on your seats. And the problem of Islamic radicalism is not limited to Asia, Africa, and Europe. It's here, it's in Boston. This is the largest mosque on the Eastern Seaboard. It is run by Muslim Brotherhood. And you need to know this. No one will talk about this on the radio except the most right-wing radio guys. You really need to understand this. Thank you. I want to now turn it over to Ray.
First of all, thank you so much, everybody, for your patience, your willingness to stay with us. What we had wanted to do was to make sure that everybody got as much of Ayan as possible. Unfortunately, she had to leave for another engagement, which is all the way on the other side of the West Coast. So she would have loved to have stayed and done a little bit meet and greet, and I sincerely, sincerely apologize for that. But that being said, Ayan's foundation, the Ayaan Hirsi Ali Foundation, promotes women's rights and specifically girls and female children rights. And I have spoken to you about this in the past, the deplorable things that happen to women and girls in the Middle East. And there is no, in this particular case, there is no line in the sand, whether you're a Muslim woman, whether you're a Christian woman, whether you're a minority religious woman. The horrors that occur, including in my country of Egypt, where 94% of women and girls go through female genital mutilation, is abhorrent. It is horrible. But one of the things that Ayan speaks out for and defends is girls' rights. She protects and tries to save as many of these girls as possible here in the United States and around the world from going on what they call cutting vacations. I want to really, really implore you, through purchasing an autographed book by Ayan, to please help promote what she does, help her foundation. We, as Christians and Jews United for Israel, are not looking for anything other than to help her foundation. And so, in the back, we have 75 autographed books, and they're going for $50. First come, first served. But I implore you, the book is phenomenal, period. To have it autographed by her is exceptional, but the cause behind it is what really is near and dear to my heart. Oh, and I stand before you as an Egyptian who has probably a good majority of his female family having gone through this, even though they are Christian, even though they are not within the quote-unquote Islamic culture. This happens to everybody in the Middle East in one degree or another. And so one of my biggest prides is to have known Ayan, but as you know, there is a bill in the state right now that is sponsored by both the Congress, the House of Representatives and the state Senate, and it was put out by the Massachusetts Women's Bar Association. That law had all the teeth and all of the power to really punish those who would do this to their own kids or have it done. And it had fines, jail time, and $100,000 fines. And what has happened is that through a process where They have taken all of the teeth out of this thing. It is now a anecdotal, promotional law that is really not, would never do anything other than to say it's an educational law. So I would implore you to also look into that. Take a look at what is happening in our state. Brigham and Women's Hospital has an entire floor dedicated to African women health. What do you think happens with African women's health? They are treating infections, they are treating severe mutilation, they are treating a lot of things. The problem is that, one, you have medical doctor-patient privilege, so nobody wants to speak about it, but this is what's happening in our state. So what I want you to do is I want you to contact your state rep, contact your state senator. My state senator is Bill Brownsberger, and I dog him every single week about what he's doing because he was one of the original sponsors of this bill, and now all of the teeth have been taken out. So before we leave, there are many wonderful organizations that are sponsoring this event. Act for America, Friends of the Israeli Defense Forces, CAMRA is here. The Ayaan Hirsi Ali Foundation is here. Obviously, CJUI, we have APT, Americans for Peace and Tolerance, and Concerned Citizens of New England. Please, as we go forth, we are going to have one last...
What are the numbers of these bills that you were just referring to if we want to contact our...
I believe it's Senate Bill 305, SB 305. If you want to contact, you can also look it up. It's very prominent if you are a frequent visitor of the state.gov, ma.gov. You will find it there as well if you do a search. So right now, our next program piece is we are going to have Elder Daryl come forward, please. He's going to lead us in... I want to leave it as a surprise because when you hear this man's voice, I mean, other than who's the voice of God?
Moses?
Morgan Freeman. Next to Morgan Freeman, Elder Daryl can be the voice of God.
Thank you so much for having me on this great occasion. God bless America, the land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairie, to the oceans wide with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet. God bless America. It's the land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairie, to the ocean, wide would fall. God bless America, my home, sweet home. From the mountains to the prairie, to the oceans, wide would fall. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America. God bless America. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Thank you so much. We are free to congregate now. Before we do, I do want to just give a great thank you to Bishop Bragg. Bishop Bragg and his church has been an absolute stalwart supporter of us for a very long time. They've come to our Jerusalem parades, United Jerusalem parades, and I want to thank you for joining us today, Bishop Bragg. One last thing, please give a warm applause to Gail and James O'Hare. James, a phenomenal job with the music. Thank you, everybody.
Tequila.
One last thing. It would not be the Genesis Awards without Showfire.
Yay!
Our board member, Luis Munoz, and his Showfire team will end our program for us. Thank you.
And along came a Thumbelina. Waiting for the walls to come tumbling down. Yes, sir.